Hello everyone and welcome to the second battle on the official VPL YouTube channel. Today we're looking at Takako versus Digiko, and I got a lot of feedback from you guys for the last video, and you guys told me that you actually want the videos to be at a slower pace and more educational, and I'll try to do that starting this battle. So with this I try to focus on the matchup we see on screen and not so much what the entire squad looks like. So we have the Sunsetter on Takako's team, which is Ninetale with the ability Drought, and Pelipper on Digiko's team with the ability Drizzle. Both Pokemon summon the weather effect with their abilities, so the way this works when both Pokemon enter the battlefield at the same time is the Pokemon that is faster activates the ability first. In this instance, Ninetales would enter the battlefield, get the sun out, and after that Pelipper would activate its ability and get the rain out. So in the end, rain would be the active weather. To prevent this from happening, it's a good decision for Takako to not lead Ninetales and have Ninetales in the back and switch it in the second round or something. But Digiko could do the same, and we see Mark as a very neutral lead for Digiko here, and I think the most aggressive lead Takako could choose is Kyurem probably. Let's move into the battle and break down what happens. We see Digiko leading Mark and Takako leading Kyurem. And right off the bat, Takako is in a very good situation because Kyurem is able to threaten Digiko's team with only 2 moves. The Ice type move Freeze Dry, which hits Water type Pokemon for super effective damage, and the move Earth Power, which hits Mark, Raikou and Akaludon for super effective damage. Takako switches out here, and Digiko stays in and clicks Toxic Spikes. So Takako probably doesn't have Earth Power, and Digiko went for a very good play, setting up Toxic Spikes. Because there's no Poison type Pokemon on Takako's team, the only way to get rid of the Toxic Spikes is to switch in Serena and click Rapid Spin, which gives Digiko a free switch into Basculegion because it's a Ghost type Pokemon, and since Rapid Spin is a normal type move, Digiko would do something called Spin Blocking. Serena can't use the move Rapid Spin on Basculegion because it's part Ghost type and normal type attacks don't affect it. Digiko switches out into her Pelipper, probably predicting the terrestrialization from Articuno and the Terra Blast. Yeah, we see the Terra Blast, which is obviously ground type now, because Terra Blast changes type to the Terra type of the user. With Articuno being a ground type, it's a ground type attack, and Pelipper as a flying type is unaffected by the ground type Terra Blast. However, Articuno is usually faster than Pelipper, and Articuno also knows the move Freeze Dry. So Takako has 2 Pokemon that have the Freeze Dry ground type combination. Digiko doesn't really want to stay in here. We see the Freeze Dry outspeeding the Pelipper and immediately killing the Pelipper, which is not good for Digiko because Rain is her entire game plan and her Rain Setter just died. So this should be very easy from here on out for Takako. Out comes the Basculegion. Basculegion has the ability Swift Swim, and with it, its speed is doubled in rain. So it threatens Articuno because Articuno is a ground type now. But Takako can just switch into Ninetales, setting up the Sun, weakening a potential water type move coming in, and removing the rain from the field. Digiko predicts the switch here and clicks Flip Turn. Flip Turn is a physical water type move, which is why it didn't do as much damage. Basculegion female is a special attacker, and she probably predicted Takako switching out because you don't want to stay in with a ground type Pokemon against a weather boosted water type Pokemon with Swift Swim. Digiko switches into Muk again, which is her safest move considering she predicts a freeze dry now. Because if Takako had switched out a Pokemon, that would have come first. So with Digiko using Flip Turn, she saw that Takako stayed in, which is why she predicted Takako going for freeze dry. And obviously Muk or Archaludon are the best switch-ins for that, so Digiko switches into Muk. Then we see Digiko switching again into a Basculegion, predicting the ground Terra Blast, which doesn't do as much damage to Basculegion, and it's a way to get Basculegion in without receiving much damage or without getting KO'd by a freeze dry. And now Digiko has her Swift Summon in the rain against the Articuno. So she's fast as the Articuno, and she's in a position where she can still click Flip Turn to pivot again, and even if she does, she KOs the Articuno because she saw the amount of damage the last Flip Turn did. Articuno's at 50%. We do see the Flip Turn, killing the Articuno, and Digiko is in an awkward situation now. Because when you kill a Pokemon with a pivot move, you have to choose your Pokemon first. And your opponent sees what Pokemon you bring out before they have to choose their Pokemon. So if you kill a Pokemon with a pivot move, your opponent can react to the Pokemon that comes onto the field. Also, we see that Basculegion lost some of its HP, which is an indicator for Basculegion carrying the item Life Orb. Okay, we see Digiko switching into Muk, which is her most neutral play she has. Takako can react to that now and probably go for a Psychic type. Yeah, she does go for a Psychic type, the Meowstic, which gets poisoned, which is very unfortunate. Digiko stays in, gets Thunder Waved, immediately gets the full Paralyzed. That's very unfortunate, so that's a dead turn for Digiko. But Meowstic should threaten Muk here, even though it's a very special defensive Muk. Okay, Meowstic sets up the Reflect, which is a field effect that gives your entire team +1 defense as long as it's active. The Poison Jab doesn't do much damage because of the Reflect. The rain's almost over now. We see the switch into Archaludon, and we see Takako using Light Screen. So this Meowstic is probably Light Clay, Dual Screen, Trick Thunder Wave, because Meowstic has an ability called Prankster, which gives it +1 priority to status moves, and Light Screen is the same as Reflect, only with special defense, and the item Light Clay extends the duration of Reflect and Light Screen by 3 turns. We see the trick attack from Meowth. That's very unfortunate. Okay, what happened here is Meowstic used the move Trick. The move Trick switches the items of Akaludon or Meowstic in this case. Meowstic had the Light Clay, which is an item that Akaludon doesn't benefit from at all. But Akaludon had the item Assault Vest, which is an item that gives the holder +1 special defense, but they are unable to use any status moves. And Meowstic only knows status moves. So now that Meowstic is carrying the Assault Vest, it can only click Struggle to attack because it's unable to use any of its moves. The Flash Cannon doesn't do much damage, but I think Takako wants to get rid of Meowstic now to get a safe switch in. And she would be very glad if Akaludon killed the Meowstic faster than... Yeah. We see the struggle, and what happened here is Akaludon activated its ability Stamina. The ability Stamina gives the Pokemon having this ability +1 defense every time it gets hit by an attack. Doesn't matter if it's special or physical. Takako goes into Kyurem, probably threatening Akaludon with a Draco Meteor now, since she doesn't seem to have Earth Power. Digiko switches out into Muk, which is a safe switch in, unless Takako carries Earth Power. So we see, considering the amount of damage the Muk received, this is probably a very specially defensive Muk. Otherwise it would have done way more than this amount of damage, because Kyurem is a very strong Pokemon. Takako revealed the ground type move here, and that means that no Pokemon on Digiko's side is safe from this Kyurem. So Takako has to A, keep this Kyurem alive, and B, make this very quick because her Kyurem is poisoned and therefore on a timer. We see 12% damage from the poison, and we see the we see the substitute from Takako. Substitute is a move that sacrifices 25% of your maximum health to create a substitute that takes hits for you instead of your Pokemon. So if your Pokemon has 100 HP, the substitute would have 25 HP. And it only goes away if a Pokemon did 25 points of damage to the substitute. Otherwise, the substitute persists. And it does get the death boost from Reflect and Light Screen here. This is very, very strong. We see the Fire Punch, which doesn't do enough damage to destroy the substitute. And Takako has to hurry up here because the poison damage is a lot over time. We see Earth Power, so Digiko probably switched, predicting the Earth Power. But again, Kyurem is so strong that it doesn't matter what it clicks now. The Aqua Jet is... oh my god. Okay, so Aqua Jet is a priority move, which is the reason why Basculegion was faster here. And even with the Life Orb boosted Aqua Jet, the damage was not enough to take away the substitute. And unfortunately, the Basic Legion fainted from Live Orb recoil. We see the Earth Power not hitting anything, obviously. The poison damage is really starting to get Takako in a bad situation. And Digiko can basically just poison stall this here. The Earth Power does hurt, and if... okay, Fire Punch is enough to destroy the substitute. But at this point it doesn't really matter, because Kyurem would only live for another turn with the poison damage. Takako switches out Kyurem, and she hasn't used her Sun yet, unfortunately. She should probably do that, because Slitherwing has an ability that gives it a boost to its highest stat if it's in the Sun. Yeah, we see Slitherwing getting poisoned, so Mug really had some huge value with that one layer of Toxic Spikes. Flare Blitz taking out the Mug here. The poison damage doesn't stop. Mug is pretty much the MVP by now, because those Toxic Spikes, they did some work. We see the Wave Crash from Kingdra, not killing the Slitherwing, so Slitherwing is able to click Trailblaze now, but unfortunately it can't use the speed boost now. So Trailblaze is a grass type move that gives you +1 speed after using it, but since Slitherwing is on 9% of HP, the 12% poison damage will kill it now, and it can't make use of this boost, unfortunately. Do we see that Serena coming in to get rid of the... yeah, we see that Serena without heavy duty boots. Do we see the rapid spin now? No, we see the Power Whip missing the Raikou, unfortunately, but this would be a perfect opportunity to click Rapid Spin for Takako to get rid of her Toxic Spikes. Okay, so Ninetales comes in, finally sets up the Sun. The item Ninetales had was an Air Balloon, which protects you from ground type attacks, spikes, Toxic Spikes, and Sticky Web, as long as it hasn't popped, and it pops as soon as you get hit by an attack that is not a ground type attack. With the Sun finally out, Takako can maybe make use of it with... no, not really. All of Takako's Pokemon that can use the Sun are dead. Ninetales has Solar Beam, which does good neutral damage to Kingdra, but you see that it's not a sap move here. But it should be enough, because Ninetales should be faster here. Yeah, Ninetales is faster, and it takes out the Kingdra. However, I don't think that Ninetales is faster than Raikou. And let's see here. Ninetales knows Earth Power, so Scorching Sands. But Raikou's faster, and the Thunderbolt kills Ninetales. And Takako's not in a good situation here. Kyurem is pretty much dead. And probably not faster than Raikou. Yeah. Raikou even knows Aura Sphere, which is a super effective move against Kyurem. And now Takako is stuck with Serena, which can still do damage to Raikou, but I don't see it killing a Chaludon. Serena comes in, tanks the Thunderbolt like a champ, clicks Petal Blizzard. Petal Blizzard takes out the Raikou, but Petal Blizzard is probably not enough to do any damage against Akaludon, especially with the Stamina ability. Akaludon comes out at almost full HP, and I think Digiko got this. She misses the Draco Meteor, which would have probably been enough to kill the Tsurina, yeah, but we see only 15% of damage from Petal Blizzard. Tsurina probably being locked into Petal Blizzard. The poison damage ramps up, and if Digiko hits the Draco Meteor, but she only needs to hit that body press and the poison damage does the rest. That's 2 kills for Mug then. And with that, yeah, we see the poison damage, and with that, Digiko won this match. What a match. So obviously Takako did some misplays, but the substitute play was very strong. The trick on Akaludon was also very strong. However, it would have been way better to get rid of the toxic spikes and get the sun out as soon as possible. A matchup like this is called a weather war. This is because each side wants to have the weather up as much as possible, and you should make this your top priority. With the defensively invested Ninetales, you could switch into a water type attack. With the sun weakening the water type attack, you can soak a lot of damage with defensive Ninetales. In the end, what helped Digiko win this match is actually his skill level, because you could see that Takako isn't as experienced as she is. And even though Takako was in very good situations with Kyurem and Articuno, Digiko knew how to use her Pokemon better, she predicted stuff, and this is what won her the match, and this is very important to see. I hope you like this kind of a more analytic style. Obviously the video is way longer this way, but the main reason of this is for you to learn something. So I hope that you did learn something, and I'll see you guys with the next replay.